signal now for when I'm needed. But when that light hits the sky, it's not just a call. It's a warning to them.
Yes, sir. Welcome to Beyond the Bat Signal. I'm your host, Dominic. Join me as we dive into the depths of Batman's lore, dissecting the rogues gallery, and uncovering the stories of our iconic vigilante known as the Dark Knight. Beyond the Bat Signal is a very, very proud member of the Batman Podcast Network. Go to batman-on-film.com and click on the drop down and you'll see a whole list of shows, including yours truly. Now, with that being said, we are going to review Season 2 of Batman Caped Crusader. Looking forward to this. I am 2 episodes in, haven't gone any further, and I'm loving it already. Episode 1 pretty much picks up where the season leaves off, and you kind of see it's the story where it's around Rupert Thorne. He has to testify. He's going to jail. And actually, on that note, he is in jail. But on that note, let me give episode 1's synopsis, which is titled Brute Force. So, in Batman Caped Crusader Season 2, Episode 1, Gotham is fixated on the high-stakes trial of the imprisoned crime boss, Rupert Thorne, as Thorne's men try to eliminate the star witness, Thorne's accountant, Julian Gregory, also known as the Calendar Man. Now, before he can testify, aka Julian Gregory. Now, if you're kind of confused as to Julian Gregory, yeah, it's a different name. Julian Day is normally the Calendar Man, but who cares? Now, before he can testify, Batman works alongside allied members of the GCPD to protect the streets and ensure justice is served. So, let's kind of get right into it. And I'm going to start off by just saying, right off the bat with episode 1, I totally got vibes of Batman the Animated Series. There's an early shot. So it starts off with Hattie's tea party. So we got a little bit of a gender swap where instead of Jervis Tetch playing Mad Hatter, you got Hattie Tetch to play the Mad Hatter. And I kind of like it. She's a talk show host. She still comes off as, she's not good by any means. She totally, that's how the episode starts off. And she's spreading complete misinformation, obviously not siding with the police or GCPD and Batman whatsoever. But, her show's called The Tea Party. How brilliant. And, of course, it would be The Tea Party. But she's totally misconstruing news coverage and spreading misinformation about Batman and the police, which, again, and then while she's spreading that misinformation, there's clips of Batman and the police taking down all sorts of criminals. There's a bank being broken into and totally has BTAS vibes. I don't know if you remember the start of BTAS where that bank explosion happens. It happens in a little bit more of a toned down way in this episode, and it's right at the beginning. Okay, you don't want to miss it. It's a nice little, it's a nice little touch, and I don't know. I took it as an Easter egg. But yeah, and then you get right at once that kind of comes in and goes, you see Thorne, and this man is in a first class prison where people are giving him towels. This guy's shaving. He's got his own little prison cell, but it's like the Taj Mahal. And he's got a nice hot shower. He's got his own place. He's got it made. And of course, then there's Calendar Man, known as Julian Gregory. And I'm like, are people gonna overreact to this? The story, I feel like it takes place in the 1940s. That's just me. I don't know, but it's an Elseworld story. That's how I kind of take it. The names are not going to be identical, and that's fine. And Calendar Man is not the Calendar Man that we know in the Long Halloween. It's not the one that we know even in the Arkham series, okay? The Calendar Man we see, Julian Gregory, is Rupert Thorne's accountant, and the way he looks, doesn't have tattoos of the months across his head, but he's got glasses. He's a smaller man and just seems like such a polite guy. He's got kind of, I just want to say, a little bit of Ted Lasso in him. But then, he's just throwing out random clues to people, just having conversation. And it's like, what does this guy and this guy have in common? Their birthdays. And he's got to testify against Rupert Thorne. And Rupert Thorne obviously wants this guy dead because he's got information against Thorne that can obviously keep him in jail. So, anyway. Now, with that being said, that kind of brings us into the title cards. And they're back, baby. And I'm all for it. Love it. They have a 1940s vibe. I dig it. Okay? Is it as beautiful as the Batman the Animated Series where you had different title cards? It's just different. No. I prefer the BTAS ones, but this is cool. It literally feels like I'm watching a 1940s TV show, black and white, and that's what it shows. And it just says Brute Force, and then the date of publication, which turns out to just be July 31st, 2026. Pretty cool. Curious what you guys think about that one. The title cards. I know it's a big thing with fans, especially hardcore BTAS fans. One thing I was disappointed in, a little bummed, and upon reading reviews as well, it feels like the community's pretty much feels the same way. Is Bruce Wayne Batman calling Alfred? He's calling him Pennyworth again, and I was like, oh, we kind of moved past that, didn't we? At the end of Season 1, Batman called Alfred Pennyworth, but then he corrected himself and said Alfred. I don't know why we just kind of didn't pick up where we left off. I'm sure, and I hope that, that Batman eventually comes around and calls him Alfred. But, they're collaborating, and it's nice to see what is going to happen. They're trying to take down Rupert Thorne. Okay, and then there's also crimes happening. Riddler's one of Rupert Thorne's men, and I love this line where Pennyworth is encouraging Batman to listen, hey, why don't you collaborate and work with Commissioner Gordon? And you should go here and why aren't you working with him? And the line that Batman says, and I love it, our goals might be the same, but the methods never will be. Which is true. Batman's going to walk that line, and it's going to be a tight line, whereas, Gordon is by the book. So right now what Batman's doing is he's going to Barbara Gordon and getting legal advice. And it's nice because the way this show wraps up, spoiler alert, by the way, is Batman ends up being on a rooftop, and I'll talk about that after. So anyway, Alfred, Batman collaborating yet again. Alfred encouraging Batman to reach out to Jim. So then we see Riddler. We're introduced to Riddler, who to me, his name is Eddie Nigma, right? We got he gives me vibes from 1966, just a little bit of Frank Gorshin, where he's kind of eccentric, outgoing, but he's a mob boss. Doesn't come up with any riddles, but then he's got the green with a little bit of purple, including those cool little purple sunglasses. And I don't know, he's just, even that look kind of gives Frank Gorshin vibes. He doesn't have the bowler hat or the domino bandana or whatever it is, the domino mask. But yeah, he's working for Rupert Thorne, and Thorne's instructions are to take out the Calendar Man. Okay, so it just seems like he's one of his men, but you can tell that Riddler is a hothead. Okay, I kind of like how we pick up where it kind of left off with Bullock and Harvey Bullock and Flass, but you see Bullock with the police uniform on, and he's in blue, and then Flass is working with Montoya, and he's still a detective, and they're going into a meeting. Bullock wants to go in, and it's Montoya that says, it's detectives only, sorry. And, Flass clearly hasn't learned a single thing from season 1. Still coming across as an untrustworthy dick, like, to be honest. And just has that vibe, Calendar Man, you see that the job is to kind of protect him. So Montoya and Flass are working together, and I really do like this characterization of Calendar Man. It's a nice little twist. It didn't bother me whatsoever. It comes across as an intelligent guy, knows a bunch of dates, which is true to form. But then you have Riddler and company coming in as Calendar Man's getting off a plane and trying to take him out, kill him, as expected, because he's going to testify against Thorne. And Thorne sends his men, which includes Riddler, to kill Julian Gregory. So afterwards, Thorne's like, listen, you need to take him out, as in Julian Gregory. So Riddler's like, man, I got to come up with something. So what does he do? He goes and visits Professor Hugo Strange. And, I love how Hugo Strange corrects Riddler and just says, it's Professor. I worked hard for that name. And so Strange gives Riddler like this green little performance enhancing fluid that gives extra strength. So what does Riddler do? He gives that fluid to one of the criminal Dex, and Dex turns into this like huge ass monster. And the monster's instructed to kill Julian. So what does this monster do? He climbs up a building while the police are protecting him, by the way, and he tries to kill him. He completely obliterates all the police. Batman comes in and, for as much as he can, is taking him out to the point where both Batman and Dex go through a window, fall probably, 20 stories down to the ground, and then Batman eventually gets into his Batmobile. And this is where I was at the edge of my seat. Probably the best scene for me. Batman gets into his Batmobile and he has to take Dex out because this guy's a full-out monster and he can crush Batman into a bug, So Batman gets into his Batmobile and crashes his Batmobile into Dex into a wall. And Batman reverses and goes into drive and crashes into him again and again and again. And it felt, for me, uncomfortable. Like, I was at the point where I'm like, holy smokes, this keeps going. And is Batman going to kill him? Like, is he going to not stop until this guy dies? And Dex is clearly so strong because he eventually is about to lift this Batmobile. And then the Batmobile, Batman's got this, analog controls inside. Clicks, thrust, and just runs over Dex up against the wall. Dex falls to the floor and eventually turns from monster back to his normal self. Batman takes off and police arrest Dex. Riddler takes off. And I was just like, whew. I truly crossed my mind that Batman was going to kill him. That's what I was like, they're not going to go there. They're not going to go there. They can't go there. So the next scene we're near the end of the episode, and the court rule is completely dismissed. Thorne is acquitted of all charges, of course, because Thorne's got everyone in his pocket. It kind of gives me Batman Begins, where not Salvatore. Oh my God, Carmine Falcone has everyone bought, right? Anyway, in this case, it's Rupert Thorne. Now, the cool thing about this. And I can tell that the overlying arch of this whole season is going to be Joker. It has to be. So Thorne gets A nice little pat from the limo driver, and it was like a pinch. So Thorne's like, "Ow, like watch yourself," and so Thorne gets into his car or into the limo, and then starts laughing profusely. The limo driver, with the eyes, you can kind of tell it's Joker. He's looking at the rearview mirror, and Rupert Thorne is just laughing hysterically to the point where, we're questioning, is Thorne dead at the end of this episode? We don't really know. It doesn't give us an answer, but we know that it's alluded to that it was the Joker. Whatever that pinch was a pinch that affected Thorne, made him laugh, and it was right in front of Thorne's son. And the end of this episode, the final scene, you have Barbara meeting on a rooftop with Batman, and she organizes a meeting between Batman and Jim Gordon, and leaves off with, the episode leaves off with a look of Batman, Jim Gordon, and a huge signal, which is a huge light. Doesn't have a bat on it, but that down the line this is going to be a bat signal, right? And that's where it leaves off. It's a nice little touch. I love this episode. Episode 1 really started off strong. To me, it was, I'd give it an A to a grade. I'd probably give it an 8.5. It was an excellent episode. I actually really liked it. For me, I think the highlight definitely was Batman in that fight scene. I did like the start of it. I liked the whole thing with Rupert Thorne. Kind of curious as to where this all goes. Did they kill him after the first episode? I don't know. But there's a lot of questions. And the introduction of those title cards, little but big deal. So that finishes off episode 1. Episode 2 starts, and it's a very different tone. You have like a bit more of a grounded Batman episode 1. This is slightly different with the episode's titled Rocket's Red Glare. Okay, so this episode opens with guards eating donuts, but they're not homemade. They are store-bought donuts. Nice little, I like to call it a cold open. I thought it was a cold open. It's kind of nice. Last episode, we did not get Bruce Wayne. We got a whole lot of Batman and detective work. There's a lot of detective work in this episode, though. Bruce Wayne talking with Lucius Fox. And, you get the vibe of Batman Begins Bruce Wayne, where he's acting aloof, like he doesn't know what's going on. And he's like asking Lucius, is it Lucius or Lucius? What do you call it? I call it Lucius. Anyway, why he's here on a Saturday. And Lucius responds, Bruce, it's a Monday. And damn well that Bruce Wayne knows it's a Monday and not a Saturday. But there's this news that's coming out and about Ultrium, and Bruce just wants to kind of take a closer look at Triad Industries because they passed on this before, and he asks Lucius, let's come on over, let's watch this little demo tape, and heck, we'll have popcorn. And they do. They sit in the theater, and they sit and have popcorn and watch this. And he's like, why did we pass on this? It was a nice little touch. Anyway, Bruce Wayne, they watched the demo, and he passed on it earlier. And then you get the next scene where... So Batman obviously wants a bit more details to what's going on because something's fishy here. So you have Mr. Hartwick saying, good job keeping a lid on things. And you know that something's being hidden over at Triad Industries. Okay? So the criminals are Hardwick, Lou Decker, and Lawford. I think it's the Deadly Trio, from my understanding. And right away, like I said, I love seeing the detective work that Batman's doing. It's so typical. And then you have Lucius Fox, who's watching the Ultrium project. And, Dr. Sutton is the star of that demo tape that they were watching, by the way. And she plays such a big role. So, one ththing that Lucius Fox said that I kind of thought was funny, he's like, why did I set this meeting? It was, I don't know, just, again, more humor, a lot lighter than the previous episode, which was a lot more serious. But, it's claimed that Dr. Sutton, who came up with this project and the brains behind all of this, is dead. And she was taken out. We don't know why at this point. But there's a little bit of a flashback. So Sutton caught her business partners trying to do business with foreign partners, and she says, like, you'll hear from my lawyers. And then Dr. Sutton walks into her house, and it seems like she's in her basement, notices a bomb which goes off, and you would assume, this whole house explodes. The assumption is she's dead. And then you see the car drive off, which has her business partners, her own business partners, take off. Now you have Batman and Alfred collaborating. Where next? Batman's still calling Alfred Pennyworth at this point. So the whole Alfred watch of when Batman's going to call Alfred, you're on watch, okay? You're on notice. Anyway, Batman finds this train that's going, and it's transporting the Ultrium, and he's trying to get his hands on it. But another person is also trying to get it, and it's disguised as a Rocketeer. And both of them are trying, like, the Rocketeer is trying to derail this train that's transporting that precious cargo. And then there's Batman, who's brawling with the bad guys. And then there's that intruder of the Rocketeer, which eventually reveals itself to be Dr. Roxy Sutton. Okay? Still very much alive, and she just informs Batman that her accident was an act of betrayal from the Deadly Trio. And she refused to allow the CEOs to sell her patents to the foreign entities, and then they planted explosives in her home. So naturally, Roxy's like, no, these are mine. I created it. This is my work. And she plans to foil the test and ruin the company for stealing her life's work and trying to kill her. I don't blame her. So then there's obviously, like, she obviously gets away with it. She derails the train. She uses that, like, it looks like a laser gun, and disconnects both sides, and she gets away. Okay. That said, Roxy Sutton, Dr. Roxy Sutton, takes off her mask, and half her face is obviously very much not the same as what it once was, and that was obviously due to the explosion. But you get a good look as to, like, that flashback where she tells these men, and it's interesting, right? It's one female and telling these three men that you're going to hear from my lawyers, and they're the ones who are trying to shut her up, and they tried to kill her. Obviously that didn't happen, but following all this, we get a first look at the Batplane, which I thought that this was just absolutely sick. Looked pretty cool. I mean, you're not going to get one that looked like, Batman the Animated Series. It very much feels like the vibe for the show in 1940s, okay? But it is pretty sick. Even it has an ejectocito. That's a nice little Too Fast, Too Furious reference. As Roxy Sutton is in her rocket, and she's not flying. She's in a rocket, she's flying, and it's pretty much like plane versus plane, where they're trying to take, Batman and Roxy are trying to take each other out, and it's an air battle to the point where Batman kind of shoots her down, but then she escapes as her little rocket is up in flames, and she completely obliterates the bat plane. And eventually Batman just presses his little ejectocito. He gets out. He brings Roxy down, crashes through a building, and sure enough, it's her former employees, the Deadly Trio, that are in there with a bunch of other guys. And she's like, you see, these are the guys who are trying to take everything, and there's only one more thing that's left that I have to destroy. And Batman kind of comes to the conclusion it's the Ultrium, which is attached to the rocket. And the whole goal is for her to take that away and destroy it, because that is her life's work. Which, Batman goes on, takes on the Deadly Trio. They launch the rocket, and Batman just tells her, like, listen, I'll deal with these guys. You go get the rocket. And he just says, go. She goes up, and you see the rocket pretty high up there, as is she. She takes off the Ultrium, and this rocket just completely explodes. We don't know what happens to her, but she does take care of that Ultrium. Batman takes care of the bad guys on the floor, but the sad part is Dr. Roxy Sutton dies with that Ultrium. But that was what she wanted to go do, was to destroy her own work so her former employees don't use it. We don't know what happens. We don't know if she's alive, dead. We don't know. But I thought that this was a great interpretation. And to cap off where this episode ends, I thought it was a really, really nice touch. Because, the Triad founders, they're found guilty. And they're going to jail. Bruce tosses Dr. Sutton's work, and he's with Alfred, into this huge ditch, and he burns it. It was he goes, Dr. Sutton's work in the right hands could be transformative, but at the same time Bruce burns it on the same grounds where, and I thought this was a nice little touch, where a future site of Sutton Laboratories will be built. So he burns the papers, but then honors Dr. Sutton by building Sutton Laboratories, founded by Wayne Industries. It was a nice touch. To cap off the episode is where we see Dr. Hugo Strange with a massive smile, and there it is. He's just laying back, seated. Well, is he dead though? Like, I don't even know if Dr. Hugo Strange is dead. I have no idea. If so, that was short-lived. 2 episodes, 2 scenes, and that was it. So I'm kind of hoping he's not dead. Again, I've only gone as far as 2 episodes. Don't spoil it for me. I'm going to watch it as I go and then post my thoughts and share it with you guys. But, obviously it's at the hands of the Joker, so we think. But yeah, and that's how the episode ends. What do I rate it? I'd probably give this a good B+. Like, it was so far, like, it wasn't a terrible episode, actually. It was pretty entertaining, visually beautiful. The story just flowed really well. Like, it was a 30-minute episode, but didn't feel like it. It felt like, a good 15 to 20-minute episode. But yeah, and again, they're just leaving breadcrumbs behind and building into this huge finale with Joker, it seems like. And yeah, I'm here for it. I'm 2 episodes in. I'm loving it already. I can't wait to watch episode 3. Hopefully tomorrow I can get another episode in, or 2, and continue on from there. But that is it of episode 1 and 2. So, Brute Force and Rocket's Red Glare. We got the title cards. I can't believe it. Anyway, where can you find me? beyondthebadsignal@gmail.com. That's the email if you have any comments, questions, concerns. Big one is rate and review this show. Please. It takes 2 minutes of your time, as it really does help the show out, get noticed. And if you want to follow on socials, on Instagram @beyondthebadsignal. And also on X/Twitter @beyondbadsignal there as well. Got a few exciting episodes coming up. We have a guest joining us from another podcast, and it's a topic I am very curious what Bat fans think. I think that everyone's going to have a nice different opinion on this one. And that's going to be coming within the next couple of weeks, and I'm going to continue to review Batman Caped Crusader. Love this series. I'm all for it. And listen, we're getting more Batman as we go until the Batman Part 2 comes in 2028. But not long. February 18th, 2028. So, with that being said, that is it for this episode. Thank you very much for listening. This is Beyond the Bat Signal, and we are signing off.